So today I want to go over a trick that will heavily speed up the gearing process going into World Tier 3 and World Tier 4 in Season 2 of Diablo 4. And this is going to take place in the new Blood Harvest event, which is one of the new big pieces of content that came with Season 2. And these Blood Harvests are a big open world event that are somewhat similar to Hell Tides. They just have completely different creatures and completely different objectives within them, but it's similar in a way that it takes over a part of a zone, it has really high mob density, and you go in there to farm objectives and enemies to get some specific currencies. But one of the biggest differences between this and Helltide is that you can do Blood Harvest at level 1, you can do it in any world tier, and there's always one up. So a Blood Harvest will spawn in a zone, it'll last for an hour. When that one despawns, a new one will spawn in a different zone. So there is always one up, and you can start farming them at level 1. You can do it in world tier 1, 2, 3, or 4. And being able to do it in any world tier is actually very important for this trick. Now, while farming in these Blood Harvest zones, you'll be able to obtain a new item called Seeker Keys. Now, these are primarily obtained from Seeker enemies, which are a new kind of mini boss that are basically the playable classes turned into vampires. So you'll face a Seeker Barbarian or a Seeker Druid. And defeating these Seekers that can randomly attack you, or you can summon through some of the other activities in this event, killing these Seekers is the main way you'll obtain these Seeker Keys. You can also get Seeker Keys randomly from other activities in this area, but primarily you're getting them from Seekers. Now, these Seeker Keys are used to open chests that are also located in the Blood Harvest. And if you get into a certain radius of a chest, it'll show up on your minimap. So you use a Seeker Key on a Seeker cache, it'll give you a handful of gear pieces, usually 3+, then it'll give you a bunch of new Season 2 currencies. But the main thing we care about when doing this trick is the actual gear pieces. And another piece of information you need to know is that all of the currencies, including Seeker Keys, you get in Blood Harvest do not go away like the currencies you would be getting in a Helltide. If you get a Seeker Key, you just always have a Seeker Key, so you can go to any Blood Harvest that's currently up and you'll still have it and be able to go use it. Now, the reason this is so important is because what you can do is you can go farm these Seeker Keys on World Tier 1 or World Tier 2, and then once you get into World Tier 3 or World Tier 4, you can go use those Seeker Keys on Seeker caches on the higher World Tier difficulty and get sacred or ancestral items. And because you're usually getting like 3+ items from these chests, you're going to be gearing up super quickly once you get into the next world tier. And from the testing I've done in World Tier 3, it always gives me sacred items out of these caches. So it's seeming like one of the easiest ways to quickly gear up once you get into the higher world tiers is to go on, say, World Tier 1, go to a Blood Harvest, farm a ton of Seeker Keys, then go up to World Tier 3 or World Tier 4, and then just run around and open Seeker caches, gather up all that gear, and you'll have a ton of sacred or ancestral gear with basically doing nothing in the higher world tiers. And this will massively increase the rate at which you can progress, because one of the biggest hurdles you have to get over is once you get into World Tier 3, a lot of the enemies you're facing are going to be pretty hard until you start getting a bunch of sacred items because they have such higher stats. And the same with World Tier 4. You get into World Tier 4, you're going to be pretty weak until you start to get a bunch of ancestral items. But doing this, you basically skip fighting anything. You just run around and get a bunch of the higher tier loot, and you just speed up your gearing process pretty heavily. And I have gotten legendary items from these caches, but I have not gotten a unique yet. But there is a possibility that once you get into World Tier 3 and 4, that you can start getting uniques from these, which would even boost your progress even quicker. But that's the entirety of this trick. Incredibly simple to do. Go farm Blood Harvest on low world tiers, get a bunch of Seeker Keys, go to World Tier 3 or 4, whichever ones you have unlocked, go open up a bunch of chests, gear up super quickly so you can start effectively farming in that world tier. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.